So today we are starting with chapter 3 of module 1, Ind AS 115, revenue from contracts with customers. Now you can see pages, the almost 109 pages if you see on the upper left hand corner. So it's a very big standard. At the same time, it is very important standard from exam point of view. So we will have to decode this standard, or you can say write down or note down the most important points from this standard. Along with that, we need to solve all the illustrations given in the chapter. Okay. So for this chapter, we'll be decoding the chapter. The important parts will be noting down. Wherever we feel that this is an important part, we'll note down immediately. And similarly, we'll discuss the sums that they have given here, the illustrations that you will be writing down at home. Okay. So leave the adequate space for the illustrations after we note down the important parts before that illustration. Just as we did in the first chapter, Ind AS 1. Ind AS 115, revenue from contracts with customers. Now let's understand a basic intro about this chapter. Now from the name only you can make out that it deals with contracts. Okay, it deals with contracts. Contracts is something that we have studied in law, the Indian Contract Act, which we study at the base level. So here we are talking about contracts. Contracts generally involve two parties. Bharat has joined. Yes, Parth, are you there?
Yes, sir.
So we have started with Ind AS 115, revenue from contracts with customers. So from the name you can understand that we are dealing with contracts here. Okay. So the entity, the reporting entity, which will be applying the Ind AS, is dealing with a third person, that is their customers, with whom they have entered into contracts. And now the question is, should they recognize the revenue on the contract or not? So basically, we are talking about revenue recognition in this case. So when to recognize the revenue on the contract? That is the big question in this standard which we are going to study. So when should the entity recognize revenue on the contracts it has entered with the customer? That is the big question we'll be answering in this standard. Okay. So write down the name of the standard, Ind AS 115, revenue from customers, revenue from contracts with customers. And wherever I feel this is important, I'll tell you to note it down. Very important chapter, 109 pages. One of the biggest chapters of Ind AS. So automatically you can understand the weightage. Very important. Ind AS 115, revenue from contracts with customers. So we are dealing with the question, when to recognize the revenue from contracts with customers. Now, introduction. This standard establishes principles to report useful information about the nature, amount, timing, and uncertainty of revenue and cash flows arising from contract with a customer. So basically the entity will be entering into a lot of contracts with its customers. Obviously, when you enter into contract with a customer, you will be delivering either goods or services to the customer. So the important question is, will the customer pay on time? Secondly, will the entity deliver the goods or services in time? That is, whether they will perform their obligation, that is their part of the contract. So this standard establishes principles to report as in to record useful information about the nature, amount, timing, and uncertainty of the revenue and cash flows arising from the contract with the customer. So this standard will help us to report or to record the revenue, the cash flows from the contract with the customer. And they will also tell us when to record. The core principle is that an entity shall recognize revenue to depict the transfer of promised goods or services to customers in an amount that reflects the consideration to which the entity expects to be entitled in exchange for those goods or services. So the core principle is again recognition of revenue to depict the transfer of goods and services, which ultimately is the consideration for those goods and services which I have given to my customer. The core principle is about revenue recognition. In accounting standards also, we have studied a standard AS9, revenue recognition. So the standard specifies the accounting for an individual contract with a customer. So here we are dealing with individual contracts with a customer, with an individual customer. However, there can be a case where we have entered into a series of contracts, or you can say a portfolio of contracts with a customer. So the standard talks about one contract with one customer, but there are chances that we can enter into 5 contracts with the same customer. That is a portfolio of contracts. So this standard applies to that also. However, as a practical expedient, in reality, an entity may apply this standard to portfolio of contracts or performance obligations, that is the obligation of the entity to perform the contract, with similar characteristics if the entity reasonably expects that the effects of applying the standard to portfolio would not differ materially from applying the standard to individual contracts or performance obligations within that portfolio. So the standard talks about one contract with one customer, but that standard can be applied to a series of contracts or a portfolio of contracts with a customer. So they are talking about one contract, but it can be applied to 2-3 contracts with the same customer, which form part of the same business deal maybe. So they have entered into an agreement for 3 back-to-back contracts. So that can be there. So the standard will apply to all these contracts, and maybe the contracts are connected also. That is why they are called a portfolio of contracts with the same customer. So you can write this down, 3 points, 3 paras. So write in points, first point, second point, and third point. Please write down fast. Just write heading introduction and just write this. Okay, so intro is done. Now the important definitions which we'll be using in this standard, very important. First is contract. Contract is basically an agreement having legal enforceability. So when we studied the Indian Contract Act, we knew that contract is an agreement which has legal enforceability. So basically, if one party doesn't perform his obligation, then the opposing party can sue him in court and claim damages, or he can also sue for specific performance, that is perform the contract. So any agreement between 2 or more parties, so there had to be 2 or more parties. A person cannot enter into contract with himself. So an agreement between 2 or more parties that creates enforceable rights and obligations. So simple agreement plus legal enforceability. Legal enforceability is basically the contract can be enforced through court if the other party denies to perform it or fails to perform it. So one party can sue the other. Contract asset. So here we are talking about an asset from the entity that has applied the Ind AS to a company that is the seller or the service provider. From their point of view, what is a contract asset? Basically, it is their right to consideration. So on delivery of goods or services, they will get a right to receive the consideration. That is the money value of the contract. But obviously, it depends on them performing their part of the obligation, that they're delivering the goods or services. After that, the right arises. So an entity's right to consideration in exchange for goods or services that the entity has transferred to customer, when that right is conditioned on something other than the passage of time. So that right is conditioned on something other than passage of time. So it is, the right doesn't develop just because the time has passed. It develops because entity will perform the obligation in the future. After the entity performs its side of the contract, their right to consideration is created. So it doesn't happen that just because time passed, the right is generated. No, it will generate, the right will be created when the entity delivers the goods or services. That is, they perform their part of the obligation. Contract liability. Now, in a contract, every party has some obligation and some right. So when the entity is delivering goods or services to the customer, entity has the right to receive consideration, but at the same time, it has the obligation to deliver goods and services. Same way, the customer has a right to receive the goods and services, but has the obligation to pay the consideration. So contract liability is basically each party's obligation. So in this case, the entity's obligation is to deliver the goods and services. That is to perform their part of the contract. An entity's obligation to transfer goods or services to a customer for which the entity has received consideration or amount is due from the customer. Sometimes they can receive consideration in advance also. So that is still a liability, or the amount is due, but their obligation still is there to deliver the goods or services. Customer basically is a party to whom the entity is selling goods or services in the ordinary course of business. So a party that has contracted with an entity to obtain goods or services that are an output of the entity's ordinary activities in exchange for consideration. They are part of the normal course of business. Income. Basically, income is, from the entity point of view, is the increase in the economic benefits during the accounting period. So in economic terms, it is the increase in the economic benefits in the accounting period in the form of inflows or increase of assets. So it can be a payment in kind also, inflows in cash or assets, or decrease in liabilities. The customer might pay off our liability. So he might directly pay off our creditor, which ultimately result in increase in equity, that is the reserves, the profit. Because obviously we'll try to sell at a profit. Other than those relating to contributions from equity participants. So here there will be increase in equity. Equity, that is the reserves. We also saw the balance sheet. So where they had written equity, capital, then other equity. So other equity meant reserves. So obviously when we sell, there will be increase in the profits. That is the reserves, which are not just contributions from the shareholders. Equity can increase, that is the reserves can increase because of profits also. Performance obligation. Very important word, performance obligation, because we'll be using that again and again. A promise in a contract with a customer to transfer to the customer either a good or service or bundle of goods or service that is distinct, or a series of distinct goods or services that are substantially the same and that have the same pattern of transfer to the customer. So performance obligation. promise in a contract. So here the entity will be promising in a contract, that is their part of the contract, their obligation to transfer the goods, either a single good or service or a series of goods or service. So they can deliver over a period of time. Distinct goods are obviously when you sell, you'll be selling a type of goods or a type of service. Those are distinct goods, which are distinct from some other goods, or they are distinct from some other contract you might enter with some other customer. So it can be a contract to transfer a good or service, or a bundle of goods or services. So it can be multiple goods or services that is distinct from other goods, or a series of distinct goods or services that are substantially the same and have the same pattern of transfer to the customer. So over a period of time, you are delivering goods or services. So it can be a contract to deliver services over a year. Something like a management consultancy contract for a whole year. Revenue, income arising in the course of entity's ordinary activities. Now, very important, standalone selling price or a good or of a good or service. The price at which entity would sell a promised good or service separately to a customer. Standalone selling price is basically, they are saying, the price at which entity would sell a good or a service separately to a customer. So kind of price of a single good or service that can be sold to a customer. Transaction price for a contract with a customer. The amount of consideration to which an entity expects to be entitled in exchange for transferring the promised goods or service to a customer, excluding any amounts collected on behalf of third parties. So transaction price is basically the price of the contract. What is the consideration they are expecting from the contract, from the customer, for transferring the goods or services. In this case, they are not receiving the money on behalf of someone else. They are receiving their money on their own behalf. So standalone selling price is the price charged for a single good or service when they transfer it to a customer. Transaction price is for the whole contract. Standalone selling price is the price of a good or a service. Transaction price is the price of the whole contract, that is the consideration charged for that contract. Now, under revenue recognition, there are 5 core principles for revenue recognition. To achieve the core principles, an entity should apply the following 5-step model. So these are the 5 steps which we are going to study in this chapter, one by one. In each chapter, there are various sub-steps also, but these are the main steps. Firstly, identify the contract with the customer. Understand whether it is a contract or not. Okay. So first, it has to be a contract and with some customer. Secondly, identify the performance obligations in the contract. What are the performance obligations? What are the goods or services to be delivered and when? Determine the transaction price of the contract. What is the consideration that they are going to expect? Step 4. Depending upon how much the goods or services the company is gonna deliver, allocate the transaction price. You understand that this many goods will be supplied. So according to this will be the price that we can expect. Allocate the transaction price to the performance obligation in the contract. And step 5, recognize revenue when or as the entity satisfies its performance obligations. As soon as the entity has satisfied its part of the performance obligations, it has delivered the goods or services, you can recognize the revenue because the goods or services have been delivered. So a right has been created. So these are the 5 important steps which we are going to follow in this chapter. is that first, identify the contract with the customer. Secondly, identify the performance obligations in the contract. Thirdly, determine the transaction price. Fourthly, based on step 2, allocate the transaction price to the performance obligation in the contract. So basically, it's a step 4 is basically a addition of step 2 and 3. And step 5, recognize revenue after the entity has satisfied its part of the performance obligation, that it has delivered the goods or services. Same, identify the contract with the customer or contracts. It can be portfolio of contracts, same similar contracts entered with the same customer. Identify the performance obligations, determine the transaction price, allocate the transaction price in performance obligations to the performance obligations, recognize revenue when or as the entity satisfies the performance obligation. Now, step 1, identifying the contract. So the whole chapter is about these 5 steps. Okay, the whole chapter is about these 5 steps. So one by one, we'll be studying them. Within that, there are a lot of illustrations to understand. Plus, within a step, there are sub steps also. So, for example, step 1 contains another steps. So then we'll go to step 2. So right now we are starting with step 1, identifying the contract. So here basically they talk about, if first of all understand whether it is a contract or not. Okay. So as we know, for a contract to be in existence, it has to be an agreement between 2 or more parties. Plus, it has to be enforceable by law. So it should be an agreement which creates rights and obligations between the parties, legally enforceable rights and obligations. That is what they are saying. So it should be a contract. It should not be just an agreement, just a social agreement where no party gets any rights or obligations. Okay, and neither it is enforceable in the court of law. So it cannot be any social agreement. It has to be a proper agreement entered between 2 parties in the ordinary course of business. So a contract is an agreement between 2 or more parties that creates enforceable rights and obligations. Again, emphasis is on enforceability, because as we know that just agreement is not a contract. Agreement plus enforceability in court is a contract. So enforceability of the rights and obligations in a contract is a matter of law. Contracts can be written, oral, or implied by an entity's customary business practices. Customary business practices, basically a retailer will obviously sell goods. Then a hotel will obviously provide hotel services or restaurant services. So it is customary business practice that we understand that this is the business. So they will be delivering these kind of goods. So whenever a customer enters into contract with that entity, they know that they will deliver this because they are in that business. Contracts can be written, oral, implied by entities' customary business practices. Sometimes the contract can be written in words or oral, or it can be implied that the parties know that this person is into delivering steel or making steel products. So obviously they will deliver steel goods only. The contract will be for steel only. The practices and processes for, for establishing contracts with customers vary across legal jurisdictions, industries, and entities. So nature of contracts will differ industry-wise, plus jurisdiction-wise, or you can say country-wise. So in this case, the most important part is only this, that a contract is an agreement between 2 or more parties that creates enforceable rights and obligations. So there should be agreement plus legal enforceability to make it a contract. Contract can be written, oral, or implied. Basically, implied contract, the best example is when you enter into a restaurant. Okay, when you enter into a restaurant, obviously you don't sign a contract with the restaurant owner that I'll be eating here, so let's enter into contract. You enter the restaurant, they give you a menu card, you order food, they give you the food, and obviously you will be obligated to pay now. So it is implied that you entered the hotel, you sat, you ate, you will have to pay. Same way, it is implied that if you get into a bus, a BST bus, it is implied that if you have entered into the bus, you will have to buy a ticket, and the bus will take you to the respective position or respective place. So the bus plying on the roads and stopping at various bus stops is an offer the best is making. You getting into the bus becomes the implied contract that you have accepted the offer and now you will buy a ticket. Same way for a train. When you get into a train, it is implied that you need to have a ticket and the train will deliver you to some place. You don't enter into a contract written or oral with a railway company or with the best. It is implied by your actions. Implied is basically by your actions. So it is from the entity's business, from the railway's business, you know that they will deliver, they will send you to some place. They will take you to this station. Same way the bus will take you to this stop. That is implied. Okay. By actions. So every time the contract need not be in written or oral words, it can be implied by actions also. So identifying the contract. So within that step step one was identifying the contract. In that, there are some criteria for recognizing the contract. So only if the criteria is satisfied, then the contract is recognized. So first step is satisfied only when the criteria are fulfilled. Now these are the criteria. Accounting contract exists only when arrangement with a customer meets each of the following criteria, following 5 criteria. The parties have approved in writing orally or in accordance with customary business practice implied the contract and are committed to perform their contractual obligations. So first of all, both the parties have approved to the contract and they are committed to perform their obligations. Second criteria, the entity can identify each party's rights regarding the goods or services to be transferred. So each party's rights can be identified, that one party will deliver goods or services, other party will pay. The entity can identify the payment terms for the goods or services to be transferred. Basically, the rule is, in Indian Contract Act also there was a rule that no consideration, no contract. So there should be some fixed payment terms to make the contract valid. The contract has commercial substance. It needs to be commercial contract. That is, the risk, timing, or amount of the entity's future cash flows is expected to change as a result of the contract. Economic benefits are going to flow to the entity. It is probable that the entity will collect substantially all of the consideration to which it expects to be entitled. So collection is also probable, that they will receive the collection, maybe not complete, but at least they will receive a substantial part of it. So if all these things are there, then you recognize a contract. That is the 5 criteria to understand whether a contract exists or not. So only if these 5 criteria are there, then the contract exists. Again, the same criteria they have discussed. Criteria 1, the parties have approved the contract and are committed to perform. Yes. Criteria 2, the entity can identify each party's rights. Criteria 3, the entity can identify the payment terms for goods or services. Criteria 4, the contract has a commercial substance. And criteria 5, it is probable the entity will collect substantially all of the consideration. Consideration त्यांना मिळणार. जर आधीच माहिती असले कन्सिडरेशनच नाही मिळणार तर मग कॉन्ट्रॅक्टला काही अर्थच नाही ना. आता हे डेफिनेशन्स मला तुमच्याकडे लिहून हवेत, पण हे तुम्ही लिहायला जागा सोडा. सो बुक मध्ये आता जस्ट एक पेजला डेफिनेशन्स म्हणून हेडिंग द्या आणि तिकडे जागा सोडा, कारण हे ब्ल्यू मध्ये तुम्हाला कळेल काय लिहायचंय. सो डेफिनेशन्स असं हेडिंग लिहा आणि जागा सोडा. आय थिंक एक पेज विल बी सफिशियंट फॉर दॅट. बघा किती जागा लागेल. एक पेज आय थिंक वुड बी सफिशियंट. सो डेफिनेशन म्हणून एक पेज सोडून द्या. ठीक आहे. जस्ट राईट डेफिनेशन, जागा सोडून द्या म्हणजे नंतर लिहिता येईल. त्याच्यानंतर हे लिहून घ्या. टू अचीव द कोर प्रिन्सिपल ऑफ दिस स्टँडर्ड an entity should apply the following 5-step model. हे 5 स्टेप्स लिहून घ्या. ओके. कारण हे लोक ना खूप डिटेल मध्ये जात आहेत. प्रत्येक स्टेप मध्ये एक एक असं आता आता कळतच नाही, हरवल्यासारखं होतं की कुठे गेलो, कुठला पॉईंट चालू आहे आणि कशात आहोत हेच कळत नाही. ओके. तर त्यामुळे तुम्हाला सांगतो तसं स्टेप बाय स्टेप लिहा. तर त्या डेफिनेशनचं झालं की त्याच्यानंतर हे लिहा. ओके. मग त्याच्यानंतर आपण स्टेप 1 मध्ये काय लिहायचं तुम्हाला सांगतो. ओके. तो पहिलं एवढं लिहा. डेफिनेशन साठी जागा सोडा, देन राईट दिस. Okay. Now illustration 1. Based on everything that we have studied till now. So basically all the 5 steps in that we are studying the first step, and we have studied the criteria also for recognizing a contract. New Way Limited decides to enter a new market that is currently experiencing economic difficulty. So New Way Limited is trying to enter a new market. Now market can be two types. It can be a product market, so they are entering into a new product segment, or it can be location wise, geographical market, so they are entering into a new location that is currently experiencing economic difficulty. So market is down and expects that in future economy will improve. So in the future there is a lot of scope there. So New Way enters into an arrangement with a customer in the new region for networking products for promised consideration of 12,50,000. So they are selling networking products for promised consideration of 12,50,000. Networking products can be simple as a router, maybe, or modem. At contract inception, at the beginning, New Way expects that it may not be able to collect the full amount from the customer. Determine how New Way will recognize the transaction. So you saw the 5 criteria. So the 5 criteria said that to recognize a contract, the 5 criteria have to be satisfied. The parties have approved. So in this case, it was there. So 2 parties have agreed. The parties have approved the contract and are committed to perform their obligations. Secondly, each party's right and obligation can be identified. Payment terms 12,50,000. Commercial substance, they are going to sell products, they are going to receive consideration in the ordinary course of business. And 5th point, it is probable that the entity will collect substantially all of the consideration to which it expects to be entitled. So this point they are saying is dicey. So if this is the case, then they will not be able to recognize the contract because consideration might not be received. So they will have to assess on this point whether this point is there. Only then they can recognize the contract. So assuming the contract meets the other criteria, that is the first 4 criteria, within the scope of model in Ind AS 115, New way needs to assess whether collectability is probable. The last criteria is there. And in making this assessment, New way considers whether customer has the ability and intent to pay the estimated transaction price, which may be an amount less than the contract price. So the fifth criteria they need to assess. For that, they will make an assessment of the customer, whether he has the ability, he has the reserves, he has the resources, he has the intent to pay the price, or maybe little less than the price. So that they have to assess. That is what this question is all about. So they will be assessing on the fifth point. Now, in some contracts, there are termination provisions. So, like, the customer has the choice to terminate the contract. So the contract is like for 1 year. Okay, the contract is for 1 year, but the customer has been given an option that within the third month, after 3 months, he can cancel the contract if he wants, or he can continue. Okay. So in some situations, this is the termination provisions. So in some situations, only the customer has the ability to terminate the contract without penalty. In those situations, the contract terms for accounting purposes may be shorter than the stated contract term. So in that case, we'll be recording only that period. So for example, the contract is entered, the contract with term is 1 year. Okay. But after 6 months, the customer has the right, as the option, to cancel the contract. So for accounting purpose, we'll record only a 6-month contract, because we don't know whether the customer will continue or not. So we record only 6-month contract, even if the actual contract is for 1 year, as per the basic concept of prudence, caution. So illustration 2 talks about that. The gymnasium, a gym, enters into a contract with a new member to provide access to its gym for a 12-month period at 4,500 per month. So normally, gym will enter into a contract with a member. That is also a contract only, where they are giving him a 12-month period membership, 12-month membership at 4,500 per month. So monthly he has to pay 4,500. Now they are giving him an option under the contract that member can cancel his or her membership without any penalty after 3 months. So the member has the option whether to continue or not after 3 months. If he continues, he will continue paying 4,500 per month. Specify the contract term. So actual contract term is 12 months. But for accounting purpose, we'll record only a contract term of 3 months as per prudence. The enforceable rights and obligations of this contract are 3 months, and therefore the contract term is 3 months. So in this case, they say that the enforceable rights and obligations will be only for 3 months, because the customer has the right to cancel it within 3 months. So that is where the termination provisions apply. Okay. So last you wrote was the criteria. Then I will want you to write this sum. Okay, later. So leave a space of 4 lines after the criteria. Leave a space of 4 lines to write the solution of this sum. Illustration 1. Then after that, write down contract term. What is the contract term? The period of the contract. Contract term. So leave 4 lines, then write contract term. It is the contractual period over which the parties to the contract have present enforceable rights and obligations. Okay. So write that. And then in termination provisions, write this 3 lines. And again leave 2 lines for the solution of that sum. Yes, Ishan Parth, are you there?
Yes, sir.
झालंय का लिहून तुमचं? Please respond fast, because we are waiting for you. Hello, Ishan Parth, are you there? मला कळत नाहीये तुमचं काय चाललंय. Okay. Parth, are you there? Okay, please respond fast. जेव्हा मी विचारलं पटापट respond करा. Combining contracts. Next part. Now the logic is, if two or more contracts, okay, are entered. So let's assume two contracts are entered with the same customer. Two contracts are entered with the same customer, and they are similar contracts or are connected to one another. Then they are accounted as one contract only. So if contracts are entered are two or three or more than two basically, but they are part of the same transaction or they are connected and basically they are related, they are forming consideration for each other, then they are accounted in the same way. They are accounted as a single contract only. So let's see what they are talking about. An entity should combine two or more contracts and account them as a single contract in certain circumstances, because the substance of the individual contracts cannot be understood without considering the entire arrangement. So one contract cannot be understood in isolation. It has to be understood with other contracts because they are connected. This evaluation takes place at contract inception. At the start only, you need to understand that these contracts are connected. So they have to be accounted as a single contract only. So two or more contracts may need to be accounted as a single contract if they are entered into at or near the same time with the same customer or with his related parties. So parties which are related to the customer. And if one of the following conditions exists: the contracts are negotiated as a package with a single commercial objective. So they were part of the same package. Okay. आता ऐकू येतंय? थोडा नेटचा इश्यू आहे माझ्याकडे वाटतं. ऐकू येतंय क्लिअरली आता? सगळ्यांना ऐकू येतंय क्लिअरली? ओके. आज जरा नेटचा इश्यू वाटतोय, मध्ये पण डिस्कनेक्ट झालं. आता येत आहे ना? Okay. I'll read again. Combining contracts. Basically, an entity should combine two or more contracts and account them as a single contract if the substance of So an entity should combine two or more contracts and account for them as a single contract in certain circumstances, because substance of individual contract, म्हणजे individual contract आपण स्टडी करायला गेलो तर तो समजत नाही unless you see the other contract. Okay, so one contract cannot be accounted or understood in isolation unless you consider the another contract, unless you consider the whole arrangement with the customer. So we have entered two or more contracts with the customer. So unless you understand all the contracts, you cannot understand what exactly the arrangement is. And this evaluation will take place at the start of the contract, that is at the inception. So we will have to account all these contracts entered with the customer or the customer's related parties. For example, related parties can be, we have entered into contract with a company, another contract with its subsidiary, and one more contract with its associate. So they are related parties. So they are part of the same arrangement. Okay. So we will be accounting all the contracts as a single contract if one of the following conditions exists. that the contracts are negotiated as a single package with a single commercial objective. So when the contracts were being negotiated, they were part of the same package. The amount of consideration paid in one contract depends on the price or performance in the other contract. They are connected consideration wise also. That if the second contract is not performed, consideration won't be received on the first contract. Goods or services promised in the contracts are a single performance. एक सेकंड ना माझं नेट मी चेंज कर दो ताकि डिस्कनेक्ट होते. Just a minute. So illustration 3. Here a manufacturer of airplanes for the Air Force negotiates a contract to design and manufacture new fighter planes for Kashmir Air Base. Okay. Now manufacturer of airplanes has entered into contract to design and manufacture. The contract is to design and manufacture new fighter planes for Kashmir Air Base. That is the contract. At the same meeting, the manufacturer enters into a separate contract to supply parts for existing planes at other bases. Would these contracts be combined? Now, one contract is to design and manufacture new fighter planes at Kashmir Air Base, and second contract entered at the same meeting is to supply separate parts to existing planes at other bases. Now, these contracts are definitely negotiated at the same time. Okay. But their objective is different. One is to design and manufacture planes. Other is to supply parts. Okay. These are actually different objectives. Plus, the base is different. The manufacturing design is happening at Kashmir and supply will be at other bases. Maybe in Punjab or somewhere else. So these cannot be combined logically. Okay. So even if they were part of the same meeting, they were negotiated together, but they didn't have a single commercial objective. So they cannot be combined. But suppose the contract was like to design and manufacture new fighter plane for Kashmir Air Base. Another contract they had entered to design and manufacture fighter planes for maybe Punjab Air Base. Now they would be similar. Correct. So they are part of the same objective. But here what is happening? Manufacturing design is separate, supply is separate. Supply of parts is separate. This is a different concept altogether. So contracts were negotiated at the same time, but they appear to have separate commercial objectives. The objectives are different. Supply of spare parts and manufacturing a plane are two different things. Manufacturing and supply contracts are not dependent on one another. And the planes and the parts are not single performance obligation. So they are not part of the single performance obligation. Because one single performance obligation means to manufacture and design the fighter plane. That is one obligation. Second obligation is basically to supply parts. So these are two separate performance obligations. You cannot say that they are single. Therefore, the contracts for supply of fighter planes and supply of parts shall not be combined, and instead they should be accounted separately. So they are not forming a single performance obligation. Neither the objectives are similar. The objectives would have been similar is if, for example, all the contracts are talking about supplying parts or all the contracts are talking about making planes, then they would have clubbed together. Otherwise not. So here, in combining contracts, two or more contracts may need to be accounted for as a single contract if they are entered into or at the same time with the same customer or with his related parties, and if one of the following conditions exists, that the contracts are negotiated as a package with a single commercial objective, which was not present in this case, even if they were negotiated together. The amount of consideration paid in one contract, so any of the condition can be satisfied. The amount of consideration paid in one contract depends on the price or performance in the other contract. That is also not there in this case. That only if one contract is performed, the other contract will be paid like that. or goods and services promised in a contract are a single performance obligation. They are also not single performance. There are two different performances. One is to manufacture aircraft, another is to supply parts. So these are two different performance obligations. Plus, the manufacture and design will be at Kashmir base, and supply will be at other bases for existing planes. These are two separate performance obligations. They are not single part. Okay. So in this case, please write down combining contracts. The whole thing, please write down, and then leave space of 4 lines for the solution. I hope you have understood because there is a lot of disconnection between. We'll see more examples of that later. Please write down.